All right, hello again. So a couple of days ago I put together a quick video on using IntelliJ to create GUIs in Java using Swing, and I'm also considering using Netbeans for my spring class, so I thought I would do the exact same application but in the Netbeans IDE. So when you first open up Netbeans, you get basically a screen like this. There's a start page. Don't really need to use that, so I'm just going to come over here and I'm going to say File, and I'm going to say New Project, and down here under New Project I'm going to say Java Application, and I'm going to uncheck the box that says Create Main Class. I'm going to set it as Main Project. I can call this whatever I want, so I'll just call this Comp Demo for lack of a better name. And but uncheck this because we're going to make a main class which is actually a JFrame. So go ahead and say Finish. And we get something with no source files included yet. So now I'm going to say File, I'm going to say New File, and come over here and I'm going to select under Swing GUI Forms, I'm going to select a JFrame form. So go ahead and pick that, call it whatever you want, so I'll just call this my main frame. I'm going to leave everything else the same. Again, I'm leaving the package default, so I'll get a warning about that, but that's fine. And when I do this, I've got my basic frame. Okay, so here's a simple frame created, and there's not a whole lot going on there, so I can go ahead and build my project, and then I can go ahead and run it, and I should just get a basic pop-up window without a whole lot of embellishment. And first time you do this, you have to specify what your main class is, and it'll remember after that. So I run that, and there's my basic GUI, so I can resize it, and I can close it out, and then my program exits. All right, so again, let's put some widgets on here. So I'm going to drop a button in here. And the layout manager for this is pretty straightforward. It doesn't really do a whole lot other than give you some assistance in lining things up. So I'm going to line up my fields like this. I'm going to go on this. Sorry, let's go back to the design window. I'm going to click on this object, and I'm just going to set that text to a 0. And I'm going to change the name of this by right-clicking and saying change variable name. I don't know why my windows keep popping up in the bottom right there. I'm going to change the variable name to count. And then my button over here, I'm going to change the variable name of that to be just go. And over here on my properties window, I'm going to change the text on this to say click me. Alright, so if I run this now, it'll automatically build, and when it runs, you know, we've got a button we can click, but it doesn't do anything. We've got a text window we can type into. So let's create some event handlers. So I'm going to right click on my button, and I'm going to say events. I'm going to specify an event for an action, and I'm going to choose action performed. So again, it pops me into some code here, and I'm going to type in some code. So integer c equals integer dot parse int, and I'm going to use count dot get text to read the current value in my text window. I'm going to increment the count, and then I'm going to use set text to update the text in my text window. And again, I'm just concatenating a empty string to this to make sure that that it's treating the argument as a string. I don't know why it said set action, so set text to be that. And so if I go ahead and run this, I'll get my window, and again, every time that I click the button, it increments the count. So same idea as we saw with IntelliJ, same idea if you're used to Eclipse. You have a design window, and you can sort of add buttons in here and do whatever you like. So I can double click on that button and come down here to the action performed code, and I can change my title bar. So I can say set title, and I'm going to say C %5 equals 0. And I'm just going to use a ternary operator. So if C is divisible by 5, it'll set the title to yay. Otherwise, it'll set the title to just an empty string. And so when I run this, we've got our window, and every time the count gets up to a multiple of 5, the title bar changes. And then let's go ahead and do one more thing. Let's add a clear button. So I'll put another button over here. And the layout manager here is kind of like an absolute layout manager. Wherever I place something, that's where it ends up placed. If I resize a widget, it ends up resized. And there's these little guides up here. For example, when I move this close to the left side, matching the left side of this button, I get this little guide bar on the left that tells me that I'm right there, and this will be directly underneath that button. So I'm going to change the text of this to reset, and I'm going to make this the same size as the click me button, and then I'm just going to double click to jump down to my action performed. And here I'm going to say count.setText, and I'm just going to reset the text to a 0. And now we've got the full implementation of this little widget. We can click and it counts up by 1, and every time that it gets to a multiple of 5, it says yay. And when we hit the reset button, it resets the count to 0, and so on and so forth. So basic deal here. We've got a drag and drop window over here, and it's resizable to some degree, but you know, your widgets will become occluded if your window gets too small. But if I take a button and I anchor it, say, to the bottom of my window, then when I run this, as I resize my window, that reset button will stay a fixed distance from the bottom, and it will also grow off to the right. So you can do some things like that, but by itself, it really just kind of drops components where you ask them to, and just sort of anchors them to the walls or to each other. So you drop your components in here, and then the source tab has the code that corresponds to everything in your design window. And it's not a lot of code, right? Most of the stuff is being handled by the Swing objects themselves. All right, so that's a quick intro to GUI design using Swing under Netbeans. Hope that's helpful. Talk to you later. Bye.